I'm back here in the complete warehouse scene inside of Softimage. I want to show you something else here, another example of modeling props and things like that. If we look back here, we can find that there's this kind of wall area that's broken down. Looks like these bricks have been broken through, and there's a chipped away area back here on the wall. Now, usually these chipped away areas can be done using flat decals, like as you can see here. Just use texture images with normal map decals, things like that. But there are cases where you may want to take a wall and add some extra geometry just to give the object some depth. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do that kind of stuff right now, which adds a lot of detail and just polishes up your scene a lot better. So let's open up an example scene here. I'm going to open up the example broken wall scene. So I'll pop that open. So here is the wall that I've already created. This one, as you can see, has plenty of geometry. It's not too bad though. If I turn on my my stats over here in the camera, you can see it's only got 734 triangles, which is actually pretty low res. So this isn't going to hurt game performance very much, if at all. Okay. So as you can see here, you can see that there's some areas that are chipped away. If I look at this from an angle, you can see clearly that the object has some depth to it, and it's not just a flat, billboard 2D plane type object, which I could have done, but there are times where you have to go in, take scene props and things, and just chip away some geometry on it, just so that it looks more realistic or has more depth to it, and just sells the illusion of the environment a little bit better. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do that. We're going to use a very similar technique to what I used in a previous video, which was the building that I showed you how to model off the texture reference. So first of all, I'm going to need a new object to build here. I'm going to make sure my point snapping is turned on. I'm going to use the create polygon tool and just come in here and snap some points over here. Build this object. Let me pull it away so it looks like this. What I want to do is I want to assign it the material from this wall object, so I'll select it. Go to assign material, pick that one. It assigned the material, but we can't see it because we need a texture projection as usual. So I'll come over here to texture projection, apply a planar YZ, and there we go. Perfect. Okay. Now let me take this guy, since we don't really need him anymore, and I'm going to hide him. I'm going to take this guy right here and place him at 0 in the X. Okay. Now here's this wall, which looks pretty neat. It's got its texture, it looks pretty high res and everything, but if we look at this from an angle, it's just a flat wall. It's just basically a billboard, an illusion, okay? Which can look pretty good for something that's far away from the camera, but if it's something that's close, you might want to add some detail. So if I look at the texture editor over here, we can see it's nothing more than a simple picture that has these chipped areas composited on top of a concrete wall texture. Alright? Now I can use that for modeling as I've done before, but this is going to be just a slight variation, a little bit different. What we're going to do is we're going to model in some damage to the wall to make it look more realistic. Okay, so we can see that the wall has a lot of chipped away areas. At this point, it's kind of a judgment call which areas you want to model in. I'm going to model in this big chipped away area up here on the upper right. I'm also going to model away these areas over here, this big one in the middle, and then this big one down here. I'm going to model part of this, not the whole thing. The more of this stuff you model into the geometry, the more triangles you're going to use up. So I don't want to go too crazy with it and, sit here modeling every single little crack on texture. That wouldn't make much sense. So I'm just going to go ahead and opt for modeling in the big ones, and then these little ones will be taken care of by other things like normal mapping and things like that. Okay? So this is pretty simple. First of all, I need more geometry. This is too simple right now. It's just one big cube or square, a polygon, which is no good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the top edges here, the top and bottom one. I'm going to go to subdivide edges evenly. I'm going to subdivide this maybe about 4 times like that. Then I'm going to take all of these edges and I'm going to subdivide those evenly as well. And again, about 4 subdivisions will work out pretty good. And the reason I want more geometry is it's going to make it a lot easier to go ahead and model this in with less errors. Okay, so I'm going to go to a right view, turn on my texture decal mode so I can see what I'm doing here, and I'm going to start to chip away by using the Add Edge tool, which you can find over here in the Modify Polymesh. here's the Add Edge tool. It's the backslash key. I use a lot of shortcuts. It's much faster that way. Okay, so what I'll do is I'm just going to come in here and start to create some of this geometry by tracing over the image. So pretty simple stuff, very similar to what we did earlier with the building object. Alright, so now that that's pretty much traced, it's pretty simple. I'm going to take all of the edges here. As you can see, Softimage selected them automatically for me using the Alt middle mouse button click method. Does a fantastic job. Softimage is a very great piece of 3D software. So I'm going to take all that stuff and I'm going to go to bevel components. Now you could go to rounding and add some more edges to this, but doing that is going to distort the UVs a bit, so I don't really recommend doing that. Instead, what I would say to do is just create one bevel, and you don't want to add too much geometry anyway, and create a bevel that's going to go all around this thing. Something like this looks pretty good. You just increase the distance or decrease it as much as you want, so maybe I'll go with something that looks like this. Okay. Now I'm going to take these polys that are in here, and let me go to my camera view here, and what I'll do is I'm just going to take this and I'm going to push it in like this. Pretty simple stuff, and push it in as far as you want. Just depends on what kind of look you're going for, and when you're done you should have something that looks like this. Now this has a lot more depth to it, and I'm going to go ahead and use the same method to do the rest of these. So simply use the Add Edge tool to chip them away. I'm going to skip ahead in the video. It's basically using the same technique over and over again, so go ahead and use the technique, experiment with it, and try to trace and outline some of the damage on the wall and see what you come up with. Okay, so I finished chipping in some major parts of the wall over here using the same exact technique. Down here I opted not to chip away the entire section down here, just to save some geometry. I thought it was good enough to go up to down here. Just don't think it's worth spending the geometry right there. But you can see as I look at this from angles, you can see that there is some depth here. I have this stuff cracked in. Now if you want to add some extra detail to this, you could take, for example, this entire ring of edges on the inside of one of these chipped away areas. You could subdivide that evenly to create basically a new edge loop right there. Now you could take that edge loop and you could do some stuff with it. You can maybe pull it out a little bit, maybe scale it down or something. So you could do a few things with it just to add some more detail to this if you wanted to. Most modern game engines can push a lot of polygons, so don't worry too much about triangle counts and things like that. Just keep it something reasonable. Right now this wall has 602 triangles, which I can see up here in my stats, and that's actually pretty good. That's very low res. So if I want to, I could keep adding more and more detail to this, but I'm not going to spend too much on that. I'll leave that up to you if you want to go ahead and create a super detailed wall or something like that. Okay, now right now I have a bunch of n-gons. If I take this object, I'm going to go to polygon over here, and in MCP I'm going to choose n-gon like we did before. And you can see that I have a lot of n-gons. I have some regular triangles like quads and things, but I also have a lot of n-gons which need to be triangulated so that the engine doesn't get confused or anything. So I'll select all those n-gons and I'm going to go to polymesh over here and triangulate. It's going to make it's going to make this mesh look a little bit messy, okay? But it's actually good. It's better if it's like this because that way you won't run into any issues. One final thing here, you might want to play around with the normal shading of this object, because right now the normals are set to a default shading rate, and you might want to change that. So I'm going to take the object here, I'm going to hit F3 to open up the Objects Explorer. I'm going to open up the Geometry Approximation node. It's going to ask me if I want to make a local copy. I'll hit yes. And if you go to the Polygon Mesh tab right here in this PPG, you can actually adjust the discontinuity. Okay, so if I deselect the object and I look at it while I make these changes, by default it's set to a value of 60. If I lower this a lot, I'll get a more faceted look, so it looks something like this, which looks a little bit more geometric and chipped away. So that might be a look you're going for if you want to go ahead and do that. Or you can increase this and try to get a little bit of a softer look, or anything in between. So I might go with something like this, which is kind of in between. Some areas are more faceted than others, and it looks pretty interesting. Okay, so I'm going to say I am happy with that. Alright, so that's pretty much done. So we have a wall that's not flat in 2D. Alright, so that's going to do it for this video. I'm going to end this one here, and in the next one we're going to start going over sculpting with ZBrush, Softimage, and Unity.